Hey everyone, this is time for not a live look at the astrology. It's time for a pre-recorded look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman and this is Empowering Astrology. And we are looking at the astrology of this week, August 9th through 15th, 2021. So yeah, if you're watching this, unfortunately we're not able to do it live like we normally do at 6 p.m. Eastern every Monday, but maybe this gives you all an opportunity to watch it in advance because I'm going to post it earlier. But yeah, sometimes life comes up and we have to sort of navigate and negotiate. We just had this Leo new moon, and I knew going into this Leo new moon that there was going to be some interesting energy, and maybe you all are feeling this interesting energy. It's sort of, this is the framework that I've been writing about. It's like throughout 2021, we have one foot in a new life, we have one foot in an old life. And this is symbolized by two planets in the sky making something called a square. Square is 90 degrees. Sometimes when you read about squares, like, oh no, a square is bad. Square is the energy of manifestation. It is about bringing something into form. It creates friction. And when you think of a square, think about the determination and the energy needed, like going to a gym to build muscle. It's like that's sort of where we're at. We're really trying to work and to build something this year, except the planets that we're doing this with, Saturn and Uranus, particularly Uranus, it's like we have to do this, but we have to do it in a completely different way than we've been doing it previously. And I feel like in 2021, we all came to some sort of a stop. And this was shown in Saturn conjunct Pluto in January of 2020. And then sort of cracks started to form in our life. And I feel like in 2021, we are taking, like life is sort of taking a new shape, and we can either resist it, fight it, work with it, try to take empowered steps to free ourselves from something in the past that just wasn't working anymore. So this Leo new moon that we had yesterday, August 8th, 2021, it brought to a head this energy, and it seeded a lunar month where we are sort of taking the next step up with this Saturn square Uranus. Like something has to change. And it's not to say that like something bad has to happen, but it sort of forces an issue. If you've not been wanting to deal with something, well, here comes Saturn square Uranus, and it's like, well, here, now you're going to have to deal with it. For example, if you've not been looking at something's in your blind spot, been in your unconscious, you might be seeing some shifts and move over the coming days and weeks. But in all, this is a time when we really have to be ourselves. And being ourselves is a frequency of energy. It's like a note, and it's something that comes from inside of us. And it's what separates me from you and all the other 8 billion people on this planet. But it's really important. I think Leo season is a time to get back to the self. What is it that makes you you? It's a note, it's a flavor, it's a taste, but it may mean that you are currently in situations that don't allow you to be you. It could be a career, it could be a relationship, it could be a place that you live in. So I just sort of recap this Leo new moon that we had on August 8th because its energies are with us throughout the week. It's into next week. And if you want to use this energy, use it to break down something from the past, to do something differently, to reinvent. That's really, I think, the most positive way to use this energy is to really reinvent something that needs to be reinvented. But again, my name is Katie Sweetman. I'm an astrologer and psychic medium here in New York City, actually in Jersey City, just across the river. I was talking to a client last week, and I said I was a psychic medium, but I have a quote unquote a joke. I don't do dead people. I have no dead people polish. She's like, well, what kind of medium are you? And here's the thing, and it's just a little side note because we're on the subject. Mediums come in a lot of different forms. Yes, there's the people that can communicate with your relatives who have passed on, and I can do that. It's just not my preference. It's like you have to go to different neighborhoods to get different information. I just prefer working with your spirit team. We all have a spirit team. So yeah, I look at the astrology. The astrology tells me one side of things. It talks about potential. It talks about sort of the structure in which your life is built. It doesn't tell me about you. It doesn't tell me how you live it. And that's where your spirit guides come in, because they're like, come on, like you're only living in this potential of 20%, 5%, 50%. So sometimes they have me push you for them, but that's a little bit of a side note. So yes, to go back, this is the astrology of August 9th through 15th. We're just coming off the Leo new moon this week, and on Monday, August 9th, we have not just a Virgo moon. Leo energy is the sign of the sun. The sun is about that spark of creativity, the spark of the divine that lives within, if we're going to be a little bit esoteric about it. It's a sign that wants us to shine like the sun, to assert our individuality, to play in who we are. But Leos can be very conceptual. It can be more about vision. And then you get to Virgo, and Virgo's like, okay, well, how do we make this real? So we're going into this week, coming off of this Leo new moon, and maybe we had a lot of big ideas, or maybe something showed itself to us, and we're like, wow, I could go in this direction. But here we have a Virgo moon as we start the week, and Virgo is all about practicality, craft, attention to the details, and organization. So keep that in mind as you start the week. How do you hustle? How do you take this energy and sort of put it into practice? I will say on Monday, August 9th, we do have Venus opposite Neptune. Venus is in Virgo right now, a sign that's typically not at home in, and it is opposing Neptune and Pisces. So kind of a way, let's say traditional way of looking at this aspect is the sort of quote unquote, all that glitters is not gold. There's a sense of glamour and illusion and the surface of something with Venus opposite Neptune, but then it's like what's underneath. I think we also have to look at it a little bit differently, because Venus is in the sign of service and helping others and sort of tending to other people first. So I think that this opposition can also give us a little bit of a check-in where we self-sacrifice, where we put the needs of others first to our detriment. And the thing about a Neptune opposition is that we can sometimes get sort of lost in our story and sometimes our pain body or our ego. But sometimes there's also the higher side of Neptune, got to work to get there, where it can talk about compassion, forgiveness, surrender, redemption, letting something go. So maybe we need to let go of some old story about putting other people first. I don't mean that we can't all be helping others. Of course we need to help others, but sometimes we do it to our detriment. So it's just something to examine as you go into this week. It's Leo season, again, the sign of the sun, the sign of the self. And then we have on August 10th, Mercury will oppose Jupiter. So Mercury's been in Leo, kind of did a little bit of a fast move through Leo after spending what felt like forever in Gemini, because it had that retrograde. But yeah, Mercury in Leo is the need to express oneself, express one's voice, one's creative ideas and vision. It's a very creative placement for Mercury, and it's opposing Jupiter. So sometimes a way of looking at this traditionally as Mercury opposite Jupiter is somebody who tells tall tales. This is sort of the aggrandizing, there's sort of the exaggerating aspects of Mercury. Mercury is a voice, it's thoughts, it's ideas, it's facts, it's information. And then Jupiter sort of makes it bigger and embellishes it. But I think there's also the opposition can sometimes talk about the tension of opposites, sort of more of a dynamic energy that needs some sort of resolution. We can't sort of sleep on an opposition. And Jupiter in Aquarius is very mindful, very well educated, Jupiter in Aquarius, of systems and networks and science and technology. And I think that Mercury opposite Jupiter and Aquarius actually helps us to get a larger vantage. It helps us to sort of see how all the dots are connected. Now it's just a matter of what we do with it. But, Mercury is a travel planet, so is Jupiter. So there's a sense of movement and travel and needing to explore and go on adventures. I realize it's a little bit difficult to fully do that these days, but doing it in your own way. And then on Wednesday, this is sort of, I was talking so much about this Leo new moon that we also have some eclipse energy this week. And you're like, well, weren't the eclipses back in May and June? And you were correct. So we had a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, and this would have been on May 26th. I believe it was at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. And then June 10th, we had a solar eclipse in Gemini at 19 degrees. And this is actually the first time that we've had a solar eclipse in Gemini since 2012, I think, maybe 2013. Can't remember. It might have been the end of 2013 or 2012. Sorry, but it's sort of this new time with this solar eclipse that we had on June 10th, and even though that was, I guess, what is that? It is 2 months ago. Wait, is that right? Yes, it's 2 months ago. It's kind of crazy. Sorry, time flies. Even though it was 2 months ago, those eclipses can get triggered after the fact. So when Mars went into Virgo is what's called a mutable sign. And the mutable signs are, just refresh, are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So now Mars is in this sort of the same sign, for the cross of signs as the eclipses. And Mars is a trigger. It's a catalyst. It pushes us to take action and to move, and it can bring about events. So Mars is now, not now, but I think as of last week, maybe the week before, it's in Virgo. Yeah, it's 2 weeks ago. And it's starting to reach eclipse degrees. It's even reaching the degrees of eclipses that we're going to see at the end of the year, if not at the end of the year. At the end of the year, and also next spring. So sometimes you can see something happen. This is the thing about eclipses. It's kind of trippy. You can see the eclipse before the eclipse. Mars gets to the degree of an eclipse that doesn't even happen for another 6 months. And there's an event. Mars is very event-oriented. Eclipses are very event-oriented. So, when I go through the signs in a few moments, we'll sort of refresh ourselves where these eclipses are happening for the 12 signs. So, Mars gets to, Mars is in Virgo. Mars crosses the lunar nodes. I think it's around 7 degrees is the aspect. We're at a crossroads. There's something about this week. Yes, we just had this new moon. Yes, things are moving and shifting courtesy of Saturn square Uranus, but here's Mars. It's in Virgo crossing the nodes. So pay attention to the events that are happening this week. Maybe they are a bit big. Maybe they feel faded. Maybe they feel like they're connected to a larger story. Maybe there's something that you need to take action on. The thing about Mars and Virgo is that there's like a sharpness to Mars and Virgo. It has a lot of discernment. It's a need to plan and to organize. I think Mars is actually kind of underrated in Virgo. It can be a bit of a workaholic planet, but it sort of hints at the exaltation that Mars has, and it's a little bit technical information, that Mars has in Capricorn. Mars does really great work in Capricorn. And sort of, Capricorn is a sign that builds upon the perfection and the duty and the hard work of Virgo to master the earth sign. So anyway, yes, we're at a crossroads this week. Is it a left? Is it a right? Is it an up? Is it down? Is it yes or no? Speaking of which, it's not just Mars that's on the lunar nodes this week. It's Mercury. By the time we get to the end of the week on August 15th, Mercury squares the lunar nodes, and Mercury being the ruler of a lot of these eclipses, maybe it's sort of amplifying this sort of needing to make a decision, having discernment, needing to weigh our options, because, here's the refresh. The north node of the moon, and maybe if you are new to astrology, it's a very quick lesson. there's 2 points in the sky called the lunar nodes. They are not physical bodies. These 2 points are what make eclipses happen. They are just really where where we know if the sun and the moon, if we have a new moon or a full moon in alignment with these 2 points, and they move backwards, whereas the planets move forwards, that we're going to have a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse. They are a very charged axis, not just where they are right now in the sky, but also where were they when you were born. That forms this really powerful axis of fate in your own life, and it talks about the story arc of your life. I love talking about the lunar nodes. But for us right now, collectively, the North Node is in Gemini, and there's this need to get new perspective, new ideas, new information. Because the South Node's in Sagittarius, the South Node and the North Node have been in Gemini and Sagittarius since I believe it was May of 2020. So we're very aware of what we believe in, what our truth, even if it's not really truth, what our truth is, what our convictions are, what sort of ideology and things we're all fighting about. That's the thing about Sagittarius with the South Node there. We need to sort of make 100% sure that maybe we're wrong, because that's the journey of the South Node in Sagittarius to the North Node in Gemini. We need to sort of re-examine the information. We need to look at things from all the different perspectives, all the different sides, so that we can weigh a new approach, new decisions. And so the lunar nodes are going to be in, I believe, Gemini and Sagittarius until the end of the year. Don't quote me on that. I have to double check that information. But they will, by the way, the eclipses will start to go into Scorpio and Taurus, in particular Taurus. We're going to have a Taurus full moon on November 19th. That's the first in the series. But right now, it's so much about information, ideas, truth, knowledge, convictions, choice. Is it a yes? Is it a no? Are we doing this? Are we not doing this? That's sort of this collective push and pull that we're going through right now. So with Mars in Virgo, Mercury in Virgo this week, maybe we're having to make decisions or choices based on new information or new ideas. Just something to think about. So when we have something on the lunar nodes, it's evocative of eclipse energy. Every 6 months we have eclipses, and they symbolize this sort of one chapter closing, another chapter opening. I tell people it's like there's a stage, and the curtain comes down on one act and the curtain comes up on another. And the thing about eclipses is that when the curtain comes up, it could be a completely different act. And that's why eclipse energy can feel so fast and swift, and suddenly we're just in a very different scene or an act or part of our life. So keep that in mind this week, as we do have some nodal activations. Again, we're coming off of a new moon. I just want to put next week on your radar, because Uranus will turn retrograde on August 19th, and then a couple days later we will have a full moon. That's not next week. I guess the week after that we'll have a full moon in Aquarius at 29 degrees. So I think next week's astrology is going to be really interesting. But more on that in next week's show, hopefully returning live. Hopefully there's no reason for that to happen. But life is happening, and I hope you all are well. But anyway, let's go through the 12 signs. We can sort of see where these lunar nodal activations are happening this week. So Aries, my mind went blank. So these eclipses are happening in something called your 9th sign and your 3rd sign. These two signs in your chart are so much about your education, what you believe in, what you put your faith in. Sagittarius is about the external view of our world, meaning we believe it's true because we have the degree, because we went there, we traveled there, because somebody that we really look up to, a mentor or a teacher told, or even a religious figure, because Sagittarius is a sign of religion, told us that this is true. That said, with that North Node in your third sign, there's so much about you need to get new perspectives, need to make new choices, and maybe say to yourself, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe what I thought was true is not true. Maybe I just need to sort of open up my horizons, expand my horizons. So Mars is in your sixth sign. The sixth sign is about health and wellness. So maybe there's something about your health, needing to make different choices in your health, needing to take action with your health in some way. This also includes how you take care of your body, your hygiene, your routines, your daily routines, nutrition, the food that you eat. Maybe you're really busy right now, Aries, and there's a need to sort of reapproach or rethink or redo work. Maybe you've been too busy, Aries. So this is a time, Aries, because Mars is your planet, to really focus on perfection and craft and sort of going back and doing, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, making sure things are correct, doing the proofreading, Aries, because there's very much a focus right now on information and where is information coming from, and like how are you getting this information, but that's sort of the main focus right now. You're really going to see, for example, this energy show up more differently in other signs, but that's where the focus is for you right now, Aries. And maybe you're feeling like you're at a crossroads because Mars is your sign. Mars is on the lunar nodes right now. Taurus. How to think about that for a second. Taurus. So Gemini is one of your money signs. Sagittarius is one of your money signs. Gemini is more about the money that you earn, the money in your bank, what you need, what you value, what you spend money on, the resources that you accumulate. And then Sagittarius is more about finance and sort of assets and wealth and sort of this need for wealth or the lack of wealth. So it's very much about your financial life right now, and maybe even needing to make some decisions and look at things differently and even re-examine your values right now. The South Node in Sagittarius for you, look at finances, look at your relationship with debt and power, your relationship with wealth. Maybe this is a time on a more pragmatic level. You're looking at mortgages and spending and your financial portfolio, for example. But Taurus, I keep saying it, you're in a huge time of change. You had that new moon a few days ago, and that one really highlighted part of your chart that talks about home and family. So you may be seeing some changes in your living situation, or maybe you bought a home, maybe you bought a second home, you're making investments in yourself. But I will say that Sagittarius is your eighth sign, and this is part of you're in the eighth room right now. It's what I call the eighth sign in the astrology house, because there's a need to face yourself at the moment, Taurus, and to look at things that maybe you haven't wanted to look at, or maybe even didn't feel safe to look at. So do your deep inner work. At this time, Mars is in Virgo. Virgo is your fifth sign. So this is a sense of like looking at the self, how you express who you are, and maybe even where you self-sabotage, where your shadow shows up, where it gets in the way, and where it there's this sort of struggle happening between like, what do I need in order to feel safe and secure at this time? And how do you get in the way of that? Or what, maybe you don't value something, or maybe you do value something. So there's this sort of dynamic that's happening around money and value, but it's also these sort of intrinsic values and self-worth. So that's where you're seeing this push and pull right now, but maybe having to make a financial decision at this time. Gemini. So you've been having eclipses in your sign, but not just your sign, but also the sign opposite you, which is your relationship sign at the moment. So yes, you had this solar eclipse on June 10th. If your birthday is on June 10th, plus or minus a few days, it's probably a big time right now. Maybe it's a time when life is sort of, twisting and turning, or maybe things are happening, or there's like a lot of events happening around you. Life can get a little bit loud when we have an eclipse on our sign, and you are in a time of also new beginnings. That said, Mars is in the part of the chart that talks about home and family. Mars is a bit noisy in this part of the chart. There can be a move. People are moving in, people are moving out. You've got guests coming over. There's noise in the home. Mars is wanting to get you organized and focused, and to throw things out and to clean things out. Mars, Virgo is all about cleaning and organizing. I mean, on some levels, Virgo is about a lot of different things. But this is a big time for you, Gemini. Maybe you're feeling like you are at a crossroads, that you need to sort of think about your future and, which way is your future going, and sort of how do you get practical and grounded in order to make these different futures happen. But this is also a time when you need to think about health and wellness and work and projects and the things that maybe you need to sort of get focused on the details about. But this is putting into action a lot of this energy that was not just seeded in May and June, but even going back to the previous rounds of eclipses. We've got eclipses, November 30th, there was a lunar eclipse, solar eclipse on December 14th, and then we had previously June 5th of 2020, followed by, I can't remember, it was I think we just had that. We just had that lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. We had two other eclipses, but they were in Cancer and Capricorn, two other different signs. But yeah, a story is unfolding in your life right now, Gemini. It's a story about relationships, a story about you. It's a story about new directions and new times and new beginnings. And this Mars and also Mercury, your planet, crossing the nodes, is sort of making a lot of things real at the moment. Cancer. So Gemini is what's called your 12th sign. It's the last sign of your astrology chart. And when there's a sort of this dynamic that's happening between Gemini as your 12th sign, but also Sagittarius as your 6th sign, there's this sort of like, what is real, what is not real, what is tangible, what is intangible, what, it's physical service versus spiritual service. It's really getting into the details about something versus completely surrendering. So there's a lot of, there's a story arc, I'll say, there's a story arc that's happening about your spiritual life and what are you attached to and what maybe you need to let go of right now, Cancer. And I know, and I've said this previously in other videos, Cancer, you are having to do a lot of deep work at the moment because Saturn is in what's called your 8th sign. So use this time to, if something was seeded back in May and June about letting things go and sort of getting really focused on your physical life, your physical health, diet, fitness, nutrition, then use Mars's time in Virgo to make things happen. Virgo, for you, Cancer, is your 3rd sign. It's the sign, is that even correct? Wait, quick, let's do some quick math. Cancer, Leo, Virgo, yeah. Virgo is your 3rd sign. Sometimes when I do this, it feels like I'm having to dance backwards and do mental gymnastics. So then I sort of stop myself midway and I'm like, wait a second, is that correct? But yes, Virgo is your 3rd sign. So Mars right now is wanting you to get very sharp, very clear. Is it a yes? Is it a no? Is it a left or is it a right? Is it an up? Is it a down? Because you're at this point where you have to sort of look at the facts and make some choices, and use your discernment too. With this sort of dynamic that's happening between health and wellness, both physical health and spiritual health, this is an excellent time, Cancer, to let something go. It can be an attachment, it could be an addiction, a physical addiction, something like smoking or whatever, or even like a spiritual addiction or a spiritual attachment that just isn't serving you anymore. That said, use this time to get your facts straight, to really gather the information that you need. But it's a busy time, Cancer. Maybe you are really feeling Mars lots of information, lots of calls, lots of texts, lots of DMs, appointments. And so it's a busy time. And so you're trying to like sort through everything at the moment. But again, a little bit of a heavier time for you, Cancer. It's just on a broader scale. You're in a time of sort of coming to the end of something. Leo, happy belated birthday, Leo. Yeah, we're in the midst of your season. We just had that new moon. If your birthday is on the 8th, plus or minus a couple of days, it's a big new year for you. And it's one where certain parts of your life need to reform and transform and change. And one of them is your relationships, all relationships, not just intimate partnership, but how do you connect people one-on-one? And then you have Saturn as the ruler of your 6th sign, which talks about health and wellness and how you take care of your body, diet, fitness, nutrition. But these eclipses are happening in a part of the chart that talks about your friendships, your social circle, your community. And then there's sort of these bigger questions about you and how do you fit in, and how do you need to leave something behind about, or how do you sometimes let something go about yourself, or how do you capitulate yourself? But there's sort of this push and pull dynamic between like being yourself versus being accepted by the group right now, Leo. But Mars is showing up in your 2nd sign of money, income, material stability. It's also about value. This is maybe deeper question about like, how are you valued by your friends? How do you value yourself in the context of your social circle, your social connections? But even not just friends, it's groups, but it's also community. It's even the future. Like, sort of like, how do you value yourself or value your talents and your abilities and what makes you you enough to be able to share that with the world, or share that with a friend, or share that with your community? And maybe you're feeling a little bit shy at the moment, but for you, this is where the eclipses are happening. And like I said, more of the story, Leo, right now is just where other things are happening with Saturn square Uranus. But with eclipses in your 5th sign, I just say this as an aside, the 5th sign does talk about children. So maybe children are entering your life at the moment, Leo, or this need to really think about how you put your creative stamp on something. If it's not literal children, it's the things that are like children for us. Virgo. So Virgo, these eclipses have been happening in the top of your chart and also the bottom of your chart. So, the Gemini is your career sign, so you've been seeing some changes in your professional life, a new job, a new direction, new professional opportunities, and even a new role that you step in. And I just, as an aside, and I've just noticed this kind of watching the astrology unfold for some public officials. When you have an eclipse on your sun or near your sun, or prominently in your chart, eclipses can be a little bit of a seesaw. Your star goes up, your star goes down, your fate and your fortunes go up, your fate and your fortunes go down. Sometimes when there's an eclipse to the sun, it shows up as physical, health challenges. But sometimes it's like we're riding high, and then here comes an eclipse and something comes out into the open that brings us back down to earth. And this is, of course, for those who are being naughty. I'm sure none of you are being naughty right now, but this is just, kind of thinking out loud. When you have eclipses in your 10th sign, you're having eclipses in a very public part of your chart. So it's like people see this. It can be as much of a promotion and a pat on the back and sort of the sense that you've achieved this new milestone in your professional life, as much of it is getting called out on something. That said, not to make you nervous, Virgo, you're also having eclipses in the part of the chart that talks about home and family, and when your living situation, and sort of the sense of like, which way is your life going at the moment? Is it what direction? Because this sort of axis in your chart does talk about where is your life being steered towards. Mars is in your sign. Mars is in Virgo. You feel very energized to take action, to move forward. Or maybe Mars is doing that thing where it's sort of making things go kablooey a little bit in your life. But Mars initiates, Mars pushes us to take action when it's in the first sign. It's time of new beginnings, new chapters, needing to go forward in this new time in your life. So maybe you didn't quite see certain things happen, exactly with those eclipses back on May 26th or June 10th, but maybe now Mars is making it known. And Mars doesn't leave Virgo, I think, until the beginning of September. It goes into Libra. Don't quote me on that. So Mars is going to heat things up all month long. This is one of the reasons why I said, look, August 2021, stuff's happening. We got Mars on the lunar nodes, it's on eclipse degrees. We've got Saturn square Uranus. We've got this Leo new moon. We have Uranus turning retrograde. So there's just a lot happening. So yeah, hold on tight, Virgo. Life's a bit interesting at the moment. Libra. So these eclipses are happening in the chart that talks about ideas and information and also education, and maybe there's this sort of greater question right now, Libra. It's like, what do you know? What do you know to be true? Do you think you know enough? Because with the eclipses in your ninth sign, you're sort of opening to this time where it's about like, how do you get your ideas out there? How do you focus on higher education or something like higher education? So, some Libras are going back to school, some Libra or Libra risings, they're really focusing on what they believe in, what their truth is, what they want to share with the world. Some Libras, it's like needing to really examine information, where information is coming from, your relationship with this information. Now Mars is in Virgo. So Virgo is Libra's last sign. So Mars is in the most quiet and invisible part of the astrology house. And it's hard to really push forward at this time. There's sort of this greater story about surrender and how maybe it's like you gotta sort of wait and rest and maybe wait until Mars gets into Libra, probably in September. It's like, now I have to know exactly when this is. Mars goes into Libra on September 14th. See, we answered that. But yeah, there's this need to sort of take a rest, not push too much, do a lot of soul searching at this time. And if maybe you think something is true, use Mars in Virgo to really focus on your intuition and to get quiet and to feel like, is this the right choice for you? Is this the right direction? But there is sort of this dynamic that's happening around faith and truth and meaning and external faith, external truth, but also inner faith and inner meaning. And so Mars typically doesn't have a lot of energy where it is right now. So if you feel a little depleted, if you feel a little tired, Libra rising, don't push it. Wait till mid-September when you have a lot more gas in the tank, so to speak. Scorpio. So yeah, you're just coming off that Leo new moon, Scorpio, that really highlighted your professional life, your ambitions, your directions, your public reputation. So life is sort of taking some turns over the coming days and weeks. That said, this sort of nodal axis for you is happening in the part of your chart that talks about money and income and material stability and material security, but also the other side of things, finance, wealth, debt, assets, benefits. So there's this financial dynamic that's happening right now, Scorpio, and there's this sort of greater question about, what do you value? What do you sort of put your faith in, that's gonna, so that things are gonna be there for you? But it is a time to create more material stability in your life, Scorpio. I will say, because that North Node is in your 8th sign, and you are the 8th sign, Scorpio, maybe it's a little bit of a heavier time emotionally. You're sort of having to do a lot of deep work and deep transformation work. Yes, things that you're typically totally okay with, Scorpio, but maybe you're just feeling a little bit tired at the moment. It's like, I don't want to transform. I just want to do whatever. It's August. Have fun. That said, Mars, your planet, is in Virgo. And for you, Virgo is your 11th sign. So it's about community, it's about society, it's about groups, about friendships. So Mars is really putting an emphasis on the groups that you're a part of, your friends in your social circle, who you're connected to. So it's a very sort of broad-minded Mars right now. You're more out there in the world than you are at home. You're also looking ahead towards things. And maybe it's like, as you sort of put yourself out there in the world, and do you feel safe? Do you feel like your friends value you, or your community values you? Or, maybe there's some deeper emotional dynamics that are intimacy, vulnerability that are coming up in friendship and community. But again, it's also time to set your sights in the future, because, Mars, when it goes into Libra on September 14th, Libra for you is your 12th sign. So you're sort of entering from mid-September into the end of October. I think Mars goes into Scorpio the day before Halloween. So when Mars goes into Scorpio, you kind of get your strength back, you get your power back, but between mid-September and the end of October, it's typically time when you rest, you recharge, you prepare for the next cycle. But we're not there yet. So this is a time, Scorpio, where you need to now, you've sort of done a full arc. Mars takes 2 years to go around the zodiac, so look back 2 years ago. And this is about your time of looking out into the future, really sort of strategizing is what you do best. That's the thing about Scorpio. It's like there's this thing about Virgo energy, like this need to strategize and to plan and to look many steps ahead. So that's sort of where you're at right now, Scorpio, but sort of the emphasis at the moment is really the Saturn-Uranus square that we've been talking about. We talked about last week, so you can go back and listen to that. Sagittarius. So you had eclipses in your sign on May 26th. So when you have an eclipse in your sign or your rising sign, it's a time of new beginnings, new actions, new initiatives. You had the solar eclipse in Gemini back on June 10th, and Gemini is your relationship sign. So if you're not in a relationship, maybe this is a time when the window is open for new people to come in. If you are in a relationship, it is about your partnership, your partner's needs and wants, and how do you sort of negotiate yourself to somebody else's needs and wants at the moment. Because it's the thing about relationships, there isn't I don't mean loss of self. It's more like we have to sort of leave some of our own needs behind to negotiate in order to meet somebody halfway, ideally. So, here you are, you have that solar eclipse energy in your relationship sign. It's a time about new connections in general, not just romantic connections. But Mars is in Virgo, and Virgo is your career sign. So you're at this crossroads. You're sort of thinking about your professional life. You want to take action, move forward. But maybe you're having to negotiate with a partner. Maybe you're having to think about the needs of other people. But this is a big time for you, Sag. And that Mars really does activate these eclipse degrees. And I think that you're doing a little bit of dance. When Mars is in your career sign, it only happens once every 2 years. It's a career peak for you right now, Sagittarius. It's not your only career peak, but it's a time when you're really feeling that push to really put yourself out there in the world at the moment. And Virgo is very driven by details and focus, and so maybe you really focus on the details at the moment. But with Jupiter back in Aquarius, even Saturn Aquarius, it's time to kind of examine your voice, how you use your voice, how you think, how you listen, how you learn, and really thinking about the serious choices that you need to make right now to use that Mars more proactively in your professional life. So use this time to get things back in balance, to check in with your relationships, but also get very clear about what your professional goals and ambitions are, especially as you start to get to the point where you plan and think for the next 2 years, because Mars takes 2 years to go around the sun. Capricorn, you're in such an interesting place right now because you're sort of in this dance with Uranus at the moment. A lot of things have to change. That said, these eclipses are happening between your 12th and your 6th sign. So when the Sag energy shows up for you, it's about surrender. It's about letting go. And I know that those words you don't always want to listen to those words. You're just like, I don't want to let go. I don't want to surrender. I'm a Capricorn. But that's sort of where you're at the moment. It's like a lot of soul searching, a lot of deep work, especially as you externally have to shift and change with the Saturn square Uranus. But the other side of these eclipses, it's been health and wellness and how you take care of your body, how you incarnate yourself, how you are in your body, needing to look at fitness and diet and nutrition and maybe make very different choices. I mean, it's kind of really at the heart of this eclipse series, is sort of getting new perspectives on your day-to-day life, focusing on the rituals and the details. Now, Mars is in Virgo, and Virgo for you is about, what do you believe in? What's your truth? What's your faith? What's your wisdom? What's your convictions? What do you rally behind? What do you fight for? And maybe Mars is really inspiring you to kind of stand up for what you believe in or go after what you want. But it's a very philosophical time for you. But as you sort of look externally in the world and you travel the world, or you sort of metaphorically travel the world at the moment, that is supposed to help you reframe a lot of things in your life, show you the things that are just really aren't important. It's time to let them go, but also focus on the things that are really important, the details that you need to absolutely focus on. But you're doing a little bit of a dance right now, Capricorn, because a lot is shifting and changing this year, and I think Mars is helping you to get new viewpoints, new perspectives on the world, so you can have a little bit more of an internal shift, a spiritual shift, but also a shift in your day-to-day life. Aquarius. These eclipses are happening in the part of your chart that talks about friends and communities, how you put yourself out there, your social circle, your hopes and dreams and wishes for the future. For you, that's sort of, there's this deeper question, Aquarius. It's like, where do you belong? Like, who's your tribe? Who's your friends? Who's your community? And maybe kind of feeling that awkward feels that we all have, especially Aquarius. Aquarius is so much about humanity, but there is this energy in Aquarius of disconnection and like not feeling like they're a part of something. I think that's sort of the duality of Aquarius. And Aquarius's 5th sign is Gemini. It is part of the air triplicity. That's a technical point. But yeah, we sometimes forget that Aquarius is a secret Gemini. And Gemini is sort of the polarities and the dualities that exist in life. And I think sometimes with Aquarius, we really see this a little bit more exaggerated. Aquarius is a sign of humanity and allegedly peace and love. But at the same time, there can be such a coldness in Aquarius. It's this duality that you inhabit. So you're sort of looking at where you feel disconnected from friends, community, and social circle, but also where that North Node is in your 5th sign, like really connecting and expressing who you truly are, your creative, your gifts and your talents and your abilities, and what sets you apart from your peers. It's also a time when you're looking at convictions and sort of these bigger social issues and social causes and justice and equity. But Mars is in Virgo at the moment, and Virgo for you, Aquarius, is about, it's your 8th sign. So I think Mars in the 8th sign can really bring up and trigger a lot of deep emotions at the moment. So Aquarius, if you're feeling a little unsafe, or if you're feeling like you're having to face something, if it's really requiring a lot of emotional bravery and fortitude, it's sort of this time that you're in until the middle of September. But when anything goes through the 8th room of your astrology house, there's a need for it to be tested, for us to do the deep work. And then when we get to the other side, for you, Aquarius, when Mars goes into Libra on September 14th, that's when you sort of gain the new perspective. You get the wisdom and knowledge because you've tested yourself. You really did the work, and you've been, it's the necessary spiritual alchemy right now. So yes, there are these bigger questions about self and who you are, but in order to be able to answer that, you've got to go really deep within and sort of start ripping out your insides. Eighth room, so sorry, Aquarius. And that sort of brings you to the other side next month. But you know, a lot of things are shifting and shaking right now, Aquarius, because you do have Saturn square Uranus. So you're probably wondering, who are you at the moment? Which way is up? Because life has been transforming so much in the moment. So hang in there, Aquarius. You're sort of one of those signs that's in sort of the middle of things at the moment. Pisces. So Pisces, this is a time when these eclipses are really hitting upon you on a deeper level. You've got the North Node is in your sign of home and family. You've got the South Node in your professional life. So maybe there's been a move for the past few months. Maybe there's been the thoughts of a move. And then you also have the changes in your professional life, new jobs, sometimes job loss, sometimes job gain when the eclipses are happening in this part of the chart. But it's really about how do you shift the direction that your life has been taking up until this point, and maybe even taking on new responsibilities, but having to examine your motives, for example. But there's been a lot of changes in your home environment over the past 6 months, more. Especially with that solar eclipse back on June 10th. But Mars is in your relationship sign, so until September 14th, relationships are a bit hot at the moment. I mean, all relationships, not just romantic partnerships, not just the people that you live with, or marriage, for example. But nevertheless, if you are in a relationship and there is already an existing strain, Mars sort of activates it. It puts more strain on things, or the need to resolve something between you and a partner. If you are not in a relationship, then Mars is really inspiring and motivating you to connect to other people. This includes both romantic and not romantic, but Mars can be a bit hot in this part of the chart. Your interactions with people are really kind of pushing you to either stand up for yourself or sort of assert your individuality and your identity. But I think Mars is also triggering the changes in the home environment, the changes in your living situation, family, but also career, and sort of the direction that your life is taking, has been taking, will take. So there you go. That's your look at the signs this week, all 12 signs. Like I said, I'm doing this recorded. I thank you so much for your patience. And just a little note, because somebody did write me and ask about my monthly horoscopes. And yes, I'm very sorry. I had to sort of put them on hiatus, possibly permanent hiatus. I was doing the monthly written horoscope since October of 2014. So we were coming up on, what is that, 7 years. It just became a lot of work on top of this, on top of life, on top of clients. So maybe a different solution presents itself in the future, but just for now, just so I don't lose my mind, we just have to sort of put it on the side for the moment. So I'm very sorry, and I know a lot of you really enjoyed the monthly horoscopes, not just the recent video editions, but the OG ones that were written. That was like 10,000 words, by the way. By the time everything was done, everything was like 10,000. It was like two solid days of work, and often it was just a weekend, and I would lose a weekend. So anyway, but you guys enjoyed it, which is the most important thing. So just a little side note in case you missed the times that I talked about that back in June. But yeah, that is your look at the astrology of this week, this pre-recorded look at the astrology of this week. My name is Katie Sweetman. We've been looking at August 9th through 15th, 2021. We've got a lot of hot things going on in the sky this week, not just the energies of the new moon, but as we discussed, Mars and Mercury on the lunar nodes. You can follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Sign up for my newsletter. And of course, a lot of you I know are my clients. So you can book one-on-one consultations with me. I really wanted to have this done in advance. I wanted to talk more about the online teaching modules that I'm going to be doing to learn astrology, because over the years so many of you have been saying, like, when are you going to start teaching astrology more formally? And I'm like, I know, time, don't have a lot of it, I want to do it. So I've been trying to get that out all year, and it's just been like one thing after another. But maybe I will have a little bit more concrete stuff to share with you all next week, or even the week after we have the full moon. So do have a wonderful week. Those who are watching this on the replay, like I said, it wasn't live, on Instagram, IGTV, on Facebook, on YouTube, or listening as podcast on Spotify. So I thank you all for joining me for yet again look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye.